Beautiful. Let's see here. All right, guys. There we go. Thank you all for joining me today. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jorge Contreras. For those of you that don't know, I am a real estate investor who owns 8 figures in real estate. I currently do over $1 million a year with my Airbnb business. And there's a reason why some people are successful financially. There's a reason why some people become entrepreneurs, investors, and become financially free and create long term wealth. And there's a reason why 95% of people stay broke in a 9 to 5, trading time for money, working a job just to pay the bills, doing something they're not fulfilled with. So today we're going to go into the history of finances, of money. We're going to talk about why people become employees, why people decide to become a dentist, a lawyer, or a doctor, all the indoctrination, all the information. We're going to talk about why some people become rich and get richer, why others become just more and more broke, more and more poor over time, but more importantly, what you can do about it in order to change your life. So, the reason most people struggle financially, guys, is we have a very complex financial system that is not taught to us in school. And my goal and mission is to help you guys understand financial literacy, how to invest your money, how to make your money work for you, how to go from working hard for money to making your money work hard for you, how to legally pay $0 in taxes, not by doing something shady, by actually following the tax code, which has always been written in favor of entrepreneurs and investors. And one of the things that's gone wrong in our society is that most people have become brainwashed, right? This whole aspect of go to school, get a job, buy liabilities, save your money, and I'll talk in a little bit why savers are losers, and basically get out of debt and pay taxes and invest in the stock market, right? It's something that Rich Dad of Robert Kiyosaki has always talked about. And so, if we really take it back to 1902, right? What happened in 1902? In 1902, correction, 1903, John D. Rockefeller created the General Board of Education. And the sole purpose of the General Board of Education was to create taxpayers. He created the system of elementary, excuse me, elementary, junior high, high school, college, go to school, at 18 years young, get into 50, 100, or $200,000 of student debt just so you can get a certificate that says you can go and work for someone else at $40,000 a year while getting taxed 40% on that income and then work your way up the corporate ladder. What happened 10 years later after John D. Rockefeller created the General Board of Education? In 1912, and again, I'm sharing the history because I want you guys to truly understand. And again, take all this information with a grain of salt. My invitation to all of you is to, after I finish this live, after these next 45 to 60 minutes, go on YouTube, go on Google, and research this information and validate for yourself. Okay. So in 1912, all these central bankers, right? John D. Rockefeller, JP Morgan Chase of Chase Bank, and the Rothschilds family, who own Bank of America, they got together in Georgia, in a city called Jekyll Island, or in an island called Jekyll Island in Georgia. And they created the Federal Reserve, which is not federal, and there's no reserves. They created the IMF, the International Monetary System. And the next year, in 1913, they launched the IRS. Does that make sense? And then from there, after they created the IRS, now you join those two things, the General Board of Education and the IRS. And that's how this whole system of go to school, become a dentist, lawyer, or a doctor, because then you become a part of their reoccurring revenue model. When you look at some of the most powerful business models, right? Netflix, Amazon, they have these business models, as well as Disney Plus, that is called reoccurring revenue. Instead of you paying them one time, You pay them every month or every year for many, many, many years to come. It's called reoccurring revenue. So if you really think about it, from the time you are 20 up until you're 65 or the new retirement age, which is 67, you are paying 40 to 50% of your hard earned money into the tax system. And most people think that the IRS is this holy company or business or organization that paves the roads, improves the freeways, improves the schools, the education system. But in reality, it's owned by people who are no different than you and I. This is not owned by the government. It is owned by people. So the system that we are born into is designed for you to own, for you to pay millions of dollars in taxes from the time you start working into the time that you retire. And this is why Robert Kiyosaki created the cash flow quadrant, where he talks about the four people that make up the world of business. I recommend all of you guys check out this game, the cash flow quadrant, where you're basically stuck in the rat race until you start buying enough assets where those assets produce cash flow. And then eventually those assets meet or exceed your monthly living expenses. And then you are officially out of the rat race. Robert Kiyosaki wrote this book 25, 30 years ago. It didn't sell really well. So he created the book to help people understand all this financial literacy. So again, most people who go to school, get a job, work hard, pay taxes, save their money are doing it wrong. Now, don't get me wrong. If some people want to become a dentist, a lawyer, or a doctor, unfortunately, you need school and you need that degree in order to do that. But for those of you that want to be entrepreneurs and want to own a business, you don't have to go to school. I personally feel college is worthless. I attended community college for 3 semesters and then I dropped out at the young age of 20 and I went all in on my vision, my dream, my business. So I've been an entrepreneur now for 16 years and I have built multiple $1 million plus businesses, and I've created what I call a life by design. So it's really important that you guys understand the history, right? Which is his story, in order to understand why we are where we are. It's unfortunate that 90% of Americans are 2 to 3 paychecks away from being broke. Most people cannot afford a home today. If we go back to the 1950s, the price of a home was typically twice as much as the average income. So if the average income was, call it $20,000 a year, I'm just using random numbers here, then the average home was about 40,000. So it was a 1 to 2 ratio. Today, that ratio is 1 to 8. So the average home is 8 times more than the average income. And again, yes, like somebody commented here, right? School kills our ability to think because they don't want a nation of thinkers. They want a nation of workers. They want to create a system of obedient slaves from the time we are in school. Can you think about it? If you have to like pee really bad, you have to ask permission to go pee. You are not allowed to talk to other people. You're not allowed to copy. Copying is how people become successful. In fact, when I wanted to go all in on my real estate investing business, I started learning, AKA copying, what other millionaires had already done. I didn't have to reinvent the wheel and figure this all out on my own. I invested in mentorship and I started copying exactly what my mentors were doing. My mentors at Rich Dad said, Jorge, stop trying to pay off your debt. Instead, because all debt is created out of money, do a refinance cash out, pull out the equity, and go and buy more properties and go and get yourself into more good debt that will put money into your pocket. So I copied and did exactly what my rich mentors did. But in school, they told us not to copy. They wanted you to just raise your hand, memorize information that you're never going to use pretty much your entire life. And then, growing up, they teach us that we should get out of debt. Don't cut up your credit cards. If you can't buy it twice, you can't afford it. Money doesn't grow on trees. And so all of us grow up with so many limiting beliefs around money. And what I've learned now that I'm in my mid 30s and have over $5 million of debt that puts over $100,000 a month of passive income, that creates over $100,000 a month of passive income, man, this is the dream, right? Because growing up, nobody told me that all debt, that there was good debt and there was bad debt. Growing up, my parents, my older siblings, friends, they would always say like, hey, don't use credit cards. Credit cards are dangerous. Did you guys know that Robert Kiyosaki bought his very first property with a credit card back when you were able to? He bought a property in Hawaii, a condo for $18,000, and his down payment was $3,000. He just swiped his credit card and he bought the condo. And so you have to understand the reason you want to get into debt is because all debt is created. All money is created out of debt. And the rules about money changed in 1971 when Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard. Prior to 1971, every dollar in circulation was equivalent to a physical amount of gold. So they didn't print money back then like they do today. But in 1971, the central bankers and the IRS, the Federal Reserve, convinced, Richard Nixon, right, who's just a puppet because these presidents are just puppets, to take us off the gold standard so that they can print money. After that, the game changed, right? Our money today is not backed by gold. It's not backed by anything. It's just, basically the petrodollar. In order for you to buy oil, you have to convert your currency into dollars to then buy, oil. And so we have always been the powerhouse of the whole world, but all of that is changing today. And so instead of saving money and trying to get out of debt, you should be investing your money into cash flow producing assets, and you should be getting into as much good debt as possible, AKA buying investment properties. I'll give you guys a perfect example of how I got into real estate. Back in 2012, I was 23 years young, or actually I was 24, and I bought my very first piece of real estate. I bought a property in Boyle Heights, Los Angeles. I closed on May 23rd of 2012. This was a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, single family home. And I bought it for $240,000. Okay. My interest rate was around 3%. My mortgage payment, when you look at my principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, was about $1,500 all in. I rented out 3 bedrooms at $600 each for a total of $1,800, and I lived in the master bedroom, mortgage payment free. Okay. My mortgage payment, PITI, remember that acronym, guys. It's important for you guys as you're getting into real estate to understand PITI. It stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And I had about 300 in combined utilities, internet, all that information, cable back then. And it was a total payment, all inclusive, $1,800. And those 3 bedrooms at $600 each paid for everything. I didn't have to make a single payment out of pocket. But I kept saving those $1,800 a month in case I ever needed to make that payment. And 2 years later, after saving $1,800, I had an additional $43,000, $43,200 in my pocket. What did I do with that money? Did I go buy a BMW, a Mercedes-Benz, or go on vacation? No, I didn't buy any liabilities. I wanted to create more cash flow producing assets because my goal was to become financially free. Financial freedom is when your monthly passive income exceeds your monthly living expenses. So real quick, all of you, go ahead and type your total monthly expenses right now. Just an approximation. You don't have to be exact. What is your total monthly expense, including your rent or mortgage, car payments, credit cards? If you owe any other types of debt, like Curaçao or whatever it is, credit cards, child support, what is that monthly expense that you need to make in passive income in order to be financially free. Go ahead and type that number in the chat right now. Someone said 5,000, another person said 2,500. So think about it. Once you start making that exact amount in cash flow from rental properties that you either own or control, then you are officially out of the rat race. And that should be your number one goal, is to get out of the rat race. And for the 15% of you that love what you do in your JOB, you don't even have to quit. At least you now have an additional stream of income, because one of the most dangerous things you could do is have all your eggs in one basket and only make income from your 9 to 5. You want to have a second stream of income that is not correlated to you trading time for money. That should be the number one goal. Okay. Okay. I see people saying 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 a month, whatever it is. Your goal should be to own or control enough assets to cover that from a monthly expense perspective, right? And I say owner control because when it comes to short-term rentals, the business I've been in since 2017, we buy properties, we sublease properties, and we also manage properties, and we launch them all on Airbnb so that we can make way more cash flow than if they were long-term rentals. Okay. Now it's really interesting, but going back to because going back to that same property, right? I bought it for 240,000. And right now, that property, I bought it as a single family. I converted it into 3 units. Why? I did a split home ADU, which today is called the junior ADU. And I also did it my first new construction project in the backyard. So when I sold it in 2020, a month before the pandemic, I sold it for 690. So I bought it for 240. I sold it for 690. And because I am married, the first $500,000 were tax free. So I paid $0 in taxes on the gains. And that only works on properties where you live in for 2 out of the last 5 years. So because I lived there for 2 out of 5 out of the previous 5 years, I was able to sell the property, okay, tax free. If you're single, it's up to $250,000 that would not be taxed, and if you're married, it's up to 500,000 that you are able to get tax free. Okay, so just going back to my story, I started saving those $1,800 a month. And 2 years later, after saving $1,800, yes, this was in Los Angeles. After saving $1,800 a month, you multiply 24 months times 1,800, you get 43,200. I didn't go on vacation. I didn't buy a nice car. I didn't buy any liabilities. I wanted to create more cash flow producing assets. So I reinvested back into my real estate business. I did my first new construction in the backyard. I built a 220 square foot studio with a bathroom and a kitchen. And then I started renting that out for $1,000 a month. Now, I don't know about you guys, but growing up, people always said that money didn't grow on trees. And what happened is I learned that money does grow on trees if you learn how to plant money seeds. Because after renting that property out for $1,000 a month, which is 12,000 a year, if you divide that 12,000 into my initial investment of 30,000, you get a 40% return on investment. All it does in K through 12 terms is it took 2.5 years to make my 30,000 back. So now it's 2016. I'm still living mortgage payment free in the main house. I'm still making $1,000 a month from the second unit, but now I got my $30,000 back. So what did I do? I did a refinance cash out, and I went and I bought 2 additional properties in January of 2017. And on each of those properties, I did a junior ADU. That's where you take an existing home and you split it into 2 units. And because everything is already engineered and permitted as far as the living square footage, all I had to do was close off some walls, open a wall on a new wall where there previously wasn't a door, add a kitchenette, add a bathroom if there wasn't a bathroom, and then boom. And what I did is we moved into that new house. We lived on one side, Airbnb the other side. The second home, I did the exact same thing. I bought that house for my beautiful mother. She lived in one unit, still lives in that unit, and the other unit was an Airbnb, is still an Airbnb. My mother lives mortgage payment free. We live mortgage payment free. And the previous home that I started in, I started renting two of those units on Airbnb, and I had a property manager living on site on the third unit. So that's how I got started and launched my first 4 units in March of 2017 as Airbnbs with properties that I already own. So I wanted to make sure that I shared, my backstory, some of this financial literacy. I want to go a little more into some of the reasoning as to why you might want to start creating a second stream of income, especially with everything going on in the world. But again, we are live right now. We're here on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're on all the platforms live. So thank you guys for tuning in. In case you guys didn't know, I will be doing these lives every single Tuesday at 12:30 Pacific Standard Time. Again, every Tuesday, 12:30 Pacific Standard Time. And if you guys have any questions at any given time, feel free to add your questions in the comment section on any of the platforms, and I will do my best to answer all of your questions. And also, for any of you here who are serious about starting your Airbnb business, whether you want to buy or start with subleasing and arbitrage, or you want to start a management company like the co-hosting strategy, if you guys comment the word coach on Instagram, just comment the word coach on Instagram, and I will send you more information. For those of you that are on all the other platforms, send me a direct message on Instagram. Okay, so if you're on Instagram, just comment the word coach. All the other platforms, send me a direct message on Instagram with the word coach, and I can send you guys more information. And again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to type your questions in the chat. By the way, I feel like I'm on vacation right now because I'm having a coconut water. My suegro brings these from LA. They cut up the coconut and put the water straight from the coconut. No preservatives, not in a bottle. So you're drinking as legit as you can. This is delicious. Now, real quick, let me know in the chat. Type a number 1 in the chat if your goal is to create a second stream of income. Type a 1 in the chat if your goal is to spend more time with your family. Type a 1 in the chat if you are sick and tired of trading time for money and working for someone else. Type a number 2 in the chat if you look forward to the day when you can start working on your business, your vision, and ultimately start building your last name. Type a 3 in the chat if you are sick and tired of paying 30, 40, 50% of your income in taxes. People used to always say, and some people still say, that the only 2 guarantees in life are taxes and death. But I figured out how to legally follow the tax code and no longer pay taxes. And I want to break it down real quick. It is utilizing a strategy called cost segregation. All it means is you buy real estate that are rental properties. You launch them as short-term rentals. As long as your average booking is 7 days or less, you can accelerate the depreciation on that property, and it could offset your income from your W-2, from your 9 to 5, or offset other active incomes from other businesses. So buying real estate and doing short-term rentals allows you to bring your federal tax return down to 0, or just bring it down. I personally don't pay federal taxes anymore. Now, I want to do a little bit of Q&A because this is an opportunity for me to connect with my community. So again, I want to thank you guys for joining. I will be doing these lives every single Tuesday at 12:30 Pacific time. It is time to do some Q&A. Feel free to type any and all of your questions in the comment section. And I see some questions already here. So let's start with these questions. The first one, let's see. All right. The first question is, how can we do one-on-one? Send me a DM and we can talk about mentorship. Thank you for the live. Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining. I appreciate that. Where did you get the inspiration to start an Airbnb? Good question. So back in 2016, one of my students from my dance company, her name's Nicole, and Nicole was telling me how she was making 2.5 times more, I'm sorry, 3.5 times more on Airbnb compared to what she was making from her long-term rentals. I said, wow, I got to try this myself. So when I had some leases that were ending from those individual bedrooms from the first house that I bought, those leases were ending. I decided to convert two of those units into Airbnbs. And then when I bought those two additional properties in January of 2017 and split them into two units each by doing house hacking, I launched those two. So I launched 4 Airbnbs on properties that I already own. Now, the fair market rents on those properties were about 1,500 a month, but I actually started making 3,500 a month per unit. And in my first year, I netted over $100,000 in profit, and I was officially out of the rat race. The next goal was to replace my wife's 9 to 5. The problem is we didn't have money in 2019 to go and buy 3 more properties. So I heard about this Airbnb arbitrage strategy. I decided to give it a go. This is where you rent a property with the owner's permission in writing. In the lease agreement, we re-rented them as Airbnbs. And all we needed was 3 subleases. And that got my wife out of the rat race. And she was able to quit her 6-figure law enforcement job, which was perfect timing because when she quit, we were 4 months pregnant with our first daughter, Catalea. Now it's been what, almost 4 years, no, over 4 years, and we are both out of the rat race. So that's what inspired me to get into Airbnb. Again, any questions you guys have, type your questions in the comment section. Question: I inherited a home, a multifamily home, but it has no parking and no washer or dryer hookup. Either should I sell it? It's in a bad area. Very interesting. If it's in a really bad area, normally I would recommend to not sell your real estate. Instead, I would do what rich people do. Write this down, guys, because note takers are money makers. Rich people don't sell their assets, they borrow against them. So instead of selling the property, I would rather do a refinance cash out or a home equity line of credit. But because it's in a very bad area, I would 100% consider doing a 1031 exchange. All that means is that you sell the property, identify a new property within 45 days, close it within 6 months, because that's how much time you have, and you won't pay any tax, any capital gains. In fact, you'll be able to roll over your tax basis. And if this sounds really complicated, all you have to understand is that you're selling it, 1031 exchanging into a new property in a better location with the profits, and you'll pay no gains. That's what I would recommend. Great, great question. Go ahead and type your questions in the comment section. George, how do I find out if I can do Airbnb in my city of Tustin? Beautiful. Somebody actually showed me with their Airbnb, yesterday, one of my students who is in that city of Tustin. All you need to do is contact the local building department and ask them if you can get a short-term rental permit. It's that simple. Contact the local city's building department. Next question. Can I still Airbnb if the property has RSO? It's so if the property has rent control, if it's a multifamily property in LA, meaning 2 units or more, you are not able to do a short-term rental. If it's a single family home, you can do a short-term rental. Let's see. Can you speak on how to receive business credit? Absolutely. First, let's talk about why you would want to get business credit, because most of us grew up with a limiting belief that you should not get into debt. But as I mentioned at the beginning of today's live, all money since 1971 is created out of debt. So if you want to become rich, you must get into good debt that creates cash flow producing assets. For example, I recently got this business credit card. Okay. It's through Chase. It is the Business Unlimited. Make sure you guys write that in the comments. Business Unlimited through Chase. And this credit card, that one I just showed you, has a $50,000 limit, $50,000 limit. And it's a business credit card with 0% interest for 12 months. Now, what am I going to do with this business credit card? Acquire more Airbnbs, right? By utilizing the subleasing strategy, where I'll use that credit card to pay for the first month's rent, the deposit, and the furniture. Then I'm going to take the monthly profits and pay off the credit card. Typically, it takes me depending on the property, it could be 4 to 8 months to pay back my investment. But if you think about it, because I never had to use any of my money, that's called infinite return on investment. Everybody type in the comment. I'm trying to teach you guys all this financial literacy, the terminology, because money is a language. Infinite ROI. Type that in the comments, okay? Infinite return on investment. After 4 to 8 months, I'll pay back the 0% credit card, and I never had to use any of my money. This is how the rich operate. The rich ask themselves, how can I use OPM? How can I use other people's money? You could use your money, but if it takes you 4 to 8 months to get your money back when you launch an Airbnb, but you launch a new property every 2 months, that means you're going to run out of money. So what you need to become an expert at is using other people's money. You got to become an expert at leveraging good debt. All right, let's go to the next question. How can you start Airbnb remotely if I don't live in a market that's available? What you do is you find somebody that you can partner with that can be the boots on the ground. That means they're going to be in charge of everything that has to do with the business because you are not. So, for example, let's say you live in Florida, but you partnered with somebody in California in order to launch a California Airbnb. They would be your co-host, your property manager, or your business partner. And now you have boots on the ground. That's how you do it. All right, I got a question here on TikTok. Let's see, question, and then I'm going to come back to the other platforms. Are you a mentor? Yes, I do have a Airbnb mentorship that I started in 2018. I've had over 3,000 successful students. Yes. Let's see here. Your opinion about what the civil trial on Trump's tax returns. Let's not talk about that right now. Let's talk about this information. Next question. Is Airbnb system all the same since I live in Nebraska? Yes, whether you live in Nebraska, anywhere in Texas, Florida, California, Arizona, doesn't matter. You would do it the exact same way. Do you use credit to furnish the Airbnbs? Yes, we leverage 0% business credit cards and 0% personal credit cards. Again, guys, keep typing your questions in the comment section. And again, I'll mention this again for anyone who is serious about starting their Airbnb business. If you are on Instagram, comment the word coach on Instagram, and I'll send you more information about the coaching. Everybody who's on all the other platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, send me a direct message on Instagram with the word coach, and I'll send you guys more information. Let's see here. Next question. What are good strategies to start an Airbnb arbitrage? Well, the main three things that you need to start an Airbnb arbitrage. First, you need to figure out if the city allows and is issuing permits. That's the most important thing, because even if a landlord says yes in writing, and even if the numbers look really solid, if you can't get a permit and legally operate, then it doesn't make a difference. So my recommendation is make sure you get a permit. The second thing you want to do is log into AirDNA and verify the numbers. And then finally, make sure you get permission in writing from the owners, right? And some people might say, well, Jorge, that's a lot of work or it's risky. Well, here's what I say, right? If you don't start an Airbnb real estate investing business, what are you going to do to get your time and your life back? You see, Most of you are probably trading time for money, doing something that you are not fulfilled in, all while paying 30, 40, almost 50% in taxes, all while sacrificing time away from the people you love. And you work 50 weeks out of the year just to get 2 weeks of time off. And if you think about it, right, when you stop working, money stops coming in, other than your paid vacation time, if you get paid vacation time. But if you take additional weeks, you're going to take, what do they call it? Leave without pay, or like you won't get paid. And so you got to figure out a way to create assets that provide monthly cash flow, whether or not you work. Warren Buffett said it best. He said, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you're going to have to work a job until you die. So, would you rather be stuck in that cubicle, or nowadays working from Zoom at home, but still be trading time for money for the next 20, 30, some of you 40 years if you're in your 20s, or learn how to acquire cash flow producing Airbnbs that can help you create financial freedom, long-term wealth, and get you out of the 9 to 5 so that you can travel as often as you want with your family, so that money works for you, so that you pay less in taxes by following the tax code, so that you focus on what you're truly passionate about. You know, like once I became a millionaire, that was 6 years ago, I got a message from the universe. And that message said, Jorge, go and teach this information to other people. There's a lot of people out there who are struggling financially, emotionally, because it takes an emotional toll when your finances are all over the place and you're living paycheck to paycheck. So my mission is to help 1 million people become millionaires. How am I doing that? By teaching them financial literacy, how money works, how investments work, how to create cash flow producing assets that can surpass your monthly living expenses so you can be financially free. Okay? Keep typing those questions in the comments. How much cash do I need to start? So if you start with a smaller Airbnb, call it a studio or an apartment building, you need about 10K. If you want to start with a larger property, say a single family home, then you're going to need more, like between 15 and 20K. That covers the first month's rent, the deposit, furniture, and all of that. Like I said, if you're interested in starting your Airbnb, comment the word coach here on Instagram. Everybody else who on all the other platforms, DM me the word coach on Instagram, and I'll send you guys more information. All right, next question. These are some really, really good questions. Somebody asked about a 1031 exchange. So a 1031 exchange is when you sell a property and reinvest the profits into a new property in order to avoid capital gains, in order to avoid paying taxes. All right, next question. This is from Rosie. Should apps be used for rent collecting? And you trust if so? Well, we use Airbnb and VRBO for all of our short-term rentals, and they collect all the money from the guest and then send it to us. So hopefully that answers your question. Joy says, I want to retire now. Then you must create cash flow producing assets now. Okay. So obviously, okay, here are some more questions. Thoughts on investing in real estate in California with AB 1482 rent control? That's a great question, Luke. Thank you for bringing that question here on YouTube. So my recommendation, again, I personally don't do any long-term rentals right now. Okay, actually, you know what? That's not true. 2 weeks ago, I acquired a 10-unit apartment building that is rent control in LA. And yes, those are long-term rentals, right? But up until 2 weeks ago, for the last 11 years, no, let me bring that back. That's when I started investing. Since 2017 up until now, I've only ever done short-term rentals, never had any long-term rentals. But I just acquired a 10-unit apartment building with existing tenants. So those are long-term rentals. I'm so used to saying I don't have any long-term rentals, but now I do. But my recommendation, if you want to do short-term rentals, is focus on areas that are single-family homes. Because, like I said, for this person asking in regards to LA, if it's rent control, if it's multifamily, 2 units or more, you cannot do short-term rentals. Now, I currently have a handful of Airbnbs in the city of LA, but they're all single-family homes, so I'm able to operate all of them. Okay. Another question is, with today's interest rates on property, is subleasing better than owning? You can look at it in two different ways, Corey. Subleasing is a amazing and phenomenal and highly recommended way to get started, to help you get the ball rolling, to help you get your feet wet, to help you get experience, to help you start creating cash flow on the monthly basis. But your goal, that should be a short-term goal. Subleasing should be a short-term goal. Owning should be the long-term goal. Because when you own the real estate, I want you guys to type this in the comments, okay? I'm going to share the quick 5 benefits of owning real estate. Of course, you get the cash flow. This is your monthly profit after all expenses. Type the word cash flow in the chat. Appreciation. This is the increase in value over time. I bought a property in LA for 240, and then today is worth about 900,000. That's appreciation. And there's natural market appreciation, like just what the natural market does. But then there's also something called forced appreciation. That's where you force the value to go up. Type appreciation in the chat. Number 3 is depreciation. All that means is that you can make some or all of your cash flow tax-free. Type depreciation in the chat. Number 4, you have mortgage pay down. Your Airbnb short-term rental tenants are paying down your mortgage, and as the value goes up, it only increases your equity and net worth. And then you have, so type mortgage pay down in the comment section. 5 and final is tax benefits. You get a lot of tax deductions and benefits and write-offs when you are a business owner, but even more deductions and write-offs when you own real estate and run a business on top of the real estate. Like short-term rentals, everyone type taxes. Appreciation, depreciation, mortgage pay down, taxes, and cash flow. Those are the 5 benefits of owning real estate. So if you can buy, I recommend to buy, because you can always refinance and lower your interest rate when the interest rates drop in the next 3 to 18 months. We don't know when. But subleasing, if you're not in a position to buy, subleasing is the next best thing. And again, that's where you rent a property and then re-rent it on Airbnb. By the way, if you guys want the exact script that I use to get landlords to allow me to use their properties as short-term rentals, those of you on Instagram, comment the word script and I'll send you the information. Everybody from all the other platforms, if you guys message me on Instagram with the word script, I can send you guys the exact script that I use to get landlords to say yes. The next question from Corey, will you be mentored? Oh, will we be mentored by you, or do you have a team that will teach us? It's both. You'll be mentored by me directly as well as my team. If you were to join my coaching, of course. Let's see. Next question here. Yes, appreciation, depreciation, mortgage pay down, taxes, cash flow. Thank you, Alejandro, for typing that in the chat. Next question. What are your thoughts on Section 8 rentals? So I currently have one of the properties that, again, the apartment building I just acquired. Where are you located? I am located in Orange County, California. One of the units out of the 10-unit property that we just bought does have a Section 8 tenant. So I'm about to start learning the Section 8 game because I have a tenant that is paying through Section 8. I do know that Section 8 has drastically increased the rents that they pay. In fact, I believe they're paying even more than what fair market rents are because there is so much demand for Section 8. So as soon as I learn more, I'll definitely share more. Joe's question or comment: as part of the real system, Jorge has responded to me and I've met with him at events in person. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. So I think there's a couple more questions here. Again, if you guys have any additional questions, feel free to type your questions in the chat. But if anybody just joined, I want to do a quick summary, right? We talked about how the education system was created to create taxpayers, how the Federal Reserve was created to enforce the tax policies. Um, yeah, we're talking about the cash flow quadrant, entrepreneurship, how to go from the employee or self-employed quadrant to become a business owner or an investor so that you can go from working hard for money to making money work hard for you. So if you look at the cash flow quadrant, right, again, you got the E, the S, the B, and the I. Your goal should go from the left. Your goal should be to go from the left side of the quadrant to the right side of the quadrant. On the left side of the quadrant, as an E employee or S self-employed, you are working for money, trading time for money, and paying a lot of money in taxes. In fact, from January to June, all the money you make goes to the IRS. You only get the money you make from July to the end of the year. But when you're on the right side of the quadrant as a business owner or investor, then now money works for you. For example, I'm about to go to the Bahamas tonight to go speak at a conference. And while I am in the Bahamas, my 18 Airbnbs will continue to make cash flow every single day, every single week, even though I'm not here. I hired a property manager. The property manager is my boots on the ground. They manage the entire portfolio, giving me a hands-off experience. I only work about 1 week on my Airbnb portfolio, mainly just managing pricing, the pricing strategy in order to maximize revenue and cash flow. Everything else is done by my property manager and my virtual assistant, who's in Mexico, who does all the communications. And I am able to work on the business, not in the business. But again, not always. When I first started, I, of course, was the manager and I was the one doing everything until I got to a point where it made sense financially to bring in a manager. Here's a great question from somebody on TikTok. Their question is, how can I start without any money? That's a good question because the poor mindset will say, Jorge, I can't afford it. The rich mindset will say, Jorge, how can I afford it? So if you don't have the money to get started, all you need to do is find someone who has the money. Think about it. Have you ever thought about, have you ever thought or pondered why the banks encourage you to save money at the bank? Because for every dollar that you put in the bank, first of all, they pay you close to nothing in interest. But secondly, they loan out your money 10 times. So your $1 is loaned 10 times to other people and they charge them a really high interest. And if they charge them 10% and they're paying you like less than one, they are making that difference. So the bank is also in the arbitrage business. They pay you an interest rate close to zero, and then they loan out your money to other people, maybe at 8, 10, 15, 20, even 25% on credit cards. I think as high as 28%. So the banks are also in the arbitrage business. So all you need to do is borrow money from the bank, whether it's through a personal credit card, a business credit card, a refinance cash out, a home equity line of credit, or you partner with someone who has the money. You can do the work, they can bring the money, and you guys can split the profits 50-50. So if you don't have the capital, find someone who has the capital or borrow it. That's how the wealthy get wealthier. If you don't have the credit, find someone who has the credit. The average employee gets hit the hardest in the financial structure of this country. That's 100% accurate because the poor get poorer and the rich get richer. Here's why. Inflation. Inflation is the silent bank robber because what you used to be able to buy 10 years ago with $10,000, now you need $20,000 or $30,000 to buy you what $10,000 used to because of inflation, right? It's not that property values have gone up so much. It's just that the value of the dollar has been decreasing. So you have less and less purchasing power with the same money. So what you need to do is invest your money, make your money work for you. You have to get out of this mentality of work hard and save your money. You cannot save your money to financial freedom. You cannot save your money to becoming a millionaire. I mean, everybody will make $1 million, right? You'll just have to work 40 years and make 25,000 a year, and that's $1 million. But not really, because you get taxed 30, 40, 50%. Does that make sense? So I'm telling you guys, we're about to experience and are already in the process of experiencing the largest wealth transfer in human history. Those who have the knowledge, the skills, and the capital, whether it's their capital or OPM, other people's money, will thrive during this wealth transfer. But those who have the money but don't have the knowledge, the skills, the track record, the experience, or the right mentor, they're going to miss out on these opportunities because they won't be able to recognize the opportunities if it hit them in the face. So you got to surround yourself with the right community, the right people, and ultimately you got to take massive action. Here's a question on YouTube from Luke. Do you call landlords with your script to acquire more sublease properties? Yes, I do call landlords with my script. Again, if you are on Instagram, comment the word script and I will send you my landlord script. Everybody on all the other platforms, if you send me a direct message on Instagram right now with the word script, I can go ahead and send you my script. So guys, we've been here just about an hour. I do want to wrap up with a few more questions. So let's quickly type some questions in the comment section, and then we will wrap it up in about 5 minutes. I see there's another question here. For some reason, I'm unable to share the questions in the question box on Instagram. So go ahead and type your questions in the comment section. YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Should people be using the sublease method on an Airbnb stay from cities that have the 180-day rule? So there's a few cities out there where you can only Airbnb for 6 months out of the year. And the question is, should you sublease a property if you could only do it for 6 months out of the year? Personally, I would not. I would rather go into the next best city where I can operate 365 days. Because if you think about it, why would you only want to make a profit for 6 months compared to 12 months when it's going to take the exact time, the exact amount of time, money, what's money? Time, money, and energy. Ooh, I made up a new word, money. That's money and energy. Time, money, and energy. You might as well invest that time, money, and energy into launching an Airbnb that you can have for 12 months compared to one that you can only have for 6 months. That's what I would do. That would be my recommendation. Next question. Trying to get to as many of your questions here. How do you know if the Airbnb will get rented out? Okay, so like, how do you make sure that you're actually getting booked? So this is all part of your due diligence before you actually acquire the property. What my students and I use is AirDNA. It's a software that allows you to type in an address, and it's going to give you the projections of revenue over the next 12 months. So for example, if you're going to be renting a property for $3,000 a month, you want to make sure that the projections are $6,000 a month or more. You want to be able to generate $2 of revenue for every dollar of rent. And that's how you know if you're going to be booked or not. Now, yes, there's going to be some up months and some down months, but at the end, I just look at the last 12 months, right? Obviously the months do matter, but I'm like, all right, did I make 20, 30, 40, $50,000 in profit for the year? Then that's all that matters. Okay. Let's see if there's any more. Yeah, money. I just made that word up right now. It's money and energy combined. All right, guys, I don't see any additional questions. Okay, here's another question. Do you have a training curriculum to share? I am not a beginner, but not an expert. So I wanted to see the curriculum to see what courses would be helpful. That's a great question. And I'll share a little bit more about my curriculum and my coaching. So inside of my coaching program, we have various components. The first one, and now let me just share the vision, right? Because the vision and the outcome is more important than the pieces. The goal of my mentorship is to help people generate 10 to 20K a month as a baseline, right? 10 to 20K a month. Especially when you get to that 15 and 20K a month. 20K a month is when your life really starts to change, where your lifestyle really gets upgraded and you have a better quality of life, right? You can eat organic and really healthy and buy the food that is more expensive, but it's going to keep the doctor away because you're eating right. It's going to allow you to travel with your family 3 times a year. You can drive a nice car that your cash flow producing assets pay for. You can have a beautiful home that you own in a nice and safe area where you can raise a family. You have the ability to take care of, your mother, your father, your grandparents, maybe put your kids through homeschool or private school. All those things take money. Maybe you want to start a nonprofit. Maybe you want to give back to your church. All those things take money. So that's why my goal is to get people at 10 to 20K a month. In the online course, I have 3 curriculums. I have an entire curriculum on subleasing, purchasing, subleasing, purchasing, and co-hosting. We also have a Facebook community with over 1,000 active members. We also have provide you with software so you guys can verify the numbers to make sure it makes sense. We give you the script. We teach you how to talk to landlords. I give you scripts, templates, contracts, presentations, subleasing agreements, co-hosting agreements. I teach you how to create joint ventures, partnerships, the tax side, the legal side, the business credit side. I teach you how to raise money and so much more. So guys, I got to jump off because Instagram's about to kick me off. I got exactly 75 seconds. So if you are interested in starting an Airbnb business and you want to learn about my mentorship, if you are on the Instagram live, comment the word coach. Again, only for those of you on the Instagram live, comment the word coach right now. Everybody else, send me a personal message on Instagram right now, and I will be answering questions in the DM right after this live. It's going to kick me out in 50 seconds. With that being said, guys, I'm about to head over into my Instagram DMs and start answering some questions. And I'll see you guys next Tuesday, 12:30 Pacific time. Couple things I want to share. 2 pieces of mindset. I got about 35 seconds left. Do what you can with what you have where you are. The second one is focus on progress, not perfection, because perfection doesn't exist. Love you guys, sending you guys a virtual hug, and I'll see you guys in the DMs. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.